Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Dubai Air Show, where our coverage is sponsored by FLIR Systems. And we have with us Brett Pierson, a retired United States Navy captain who was a legendary test pilot, one-time exchange tour with the United States Air Force, where you got to fly some of their stuff. And you're the senior flight test and also demonstration pilot for the Scorpion program, which is by Textron. Full disclosure, Textron's Bell helicopter is the sponsor of our weekly podcast series, the Defense and Aerospace Business Report. Brett, bring us up to speed on the program. You know, you guys have been, developed this. This is a self-funded demonstration program that you guys did to demonstrate a light attack aircraft for the global market. It was a study based on talking to a whole lot of customers that may not need an F-16 capability but want payload range and a stable platform. Talk to us a little bit about where you guys are with the demonstration program now.
Oh, sure thing. We most of this summer was spent getting the airplane ready to go to the light attack experiment down in Holloman Air Force Base. So the Air Force had specific weapons that they wanted us to deliver down there, and so we spent June and July preparing for that. We went to Patuxent River, which was handy because I had recently retired from there as the wing commander, so I knew all the right people to make sure we got back there and get our weapons delivered. We were able to clear the weapons envelope that the Air Force needed for 500-pound guided and unguided bombs, 50 caliber wing pod mounted guns, and guided and unguided rockets, which was the loadout we were going to demonstrate at Holloman. So we were able to clear an envelope at Pax River to do that, and then off we went to Holloman Air Force Base for the light attack experiment. And we were able to demonstrate a really amazing ISR capability in this airplane, and as well as the ISR capability, the light attack with those same group of weapons. We delivered all of those weapons down in Holloman. And I think, at least from my perspective, the airplane showed itself very well. I think there may have been an expectation that being a newer airplane, it might not be as mature as it was, but we showed up with a weapon system that was very mature and very capable. And got to spend, at the end of the period down there, got to do some good operational work with the JTACs and with simulated cast-type missions, and really did well. Since that time, we've been doing customer demonstrations with U.S. and foreign partners, and have just been having a good time doing that with the airplane. It's a fantastic airplane. Like I said, the ISR capability is amazing. The ability to do long loiter flights, sipping fuel. I mean, to be on station, doing an ISR mission. And spending 1,000 pounds an hour over what we've traditionally would spend in multi-engine fighters doing the same missions is just a tremendous savings, a tremendous efficiency. So I think that's one of the big strengths that it brings. And then to also have the ability, unlike some other ISR platforms, to say, hey, this situation is now changing from an ISR situation to an attack situation. I have the capability to complete that full kill chain with my own airplane. I don't have to call somebody else in to do it. I'm prepared to finish that cycle.
Let me ask you from an OAX perspective, right? We talked to Taco Gilbert. He's with Sierra Nevada. Talked about the A29. They were very proud of their airplane, which is the Embraer aircraft. What do you? And you guys also have the AT6 that's in the competition. So you guys are unique in that you have two products that are going at it. One is the jet, and the other one, the modification of the T6 Texan, which is the standard trainer for all American aviators, or I should say, non-helicopter aviators. But talk to us a little bit about what the attributes are of your approach to the, one of the things they were talking about was their short field takeoff and landing capability, the rough field capability that they have in part because of the design requirements for the aircraft from the Brazilian side. Talk to us a little bit about what your envelope and parameters and attributes and advantages are compared to some of the other guys who are in this competition.
Sure. Well, I don't want to get too specific about competitors, but I will say what we have is 6 external hardpoints that give you the ability to carry weapons on all of them and have internal fuel that exceeds the others. I mean, that's a lot of fuel we can carry and not need any other external tanks. I think the other big thing we bring to that is that even in the configuration we're flying in Holloman at the light attack experiment, our 3 internal payload bays remain empty. There's 85 cubic feet and all the power and space that we need for whatever a customer might want to put in that payload bay. So we are in no way tapped out when we're in that LAE configuration. We've still got what space built in for whatever a customer might want on that airplane. And so that gives us, I think, a big advantage. One of the other things is just the speed. You've got 2 jet engines instead of 1 prop. We were able to use ranges in Holloman that were farther away than some of the other guys were using, because we had the ability to dash out there, do the mission, dash back, and do the missions in the same time frame. And we weren't giving up a lot of endurance for that, because we've got a very high efficiency motors in these engines, and yet still have jet speeds. You know, we're also talking about a twin engine jet with ejection seats, and that adds a certain level of survivability to the situation that you know. You get into a discussion about what's your single engine climb, and we're having a discussion about what our single engine climb is, and then you're like, well, what do the other three guys do if they have single engine loss, right? so I'll take my single engine climb. Coming from a two engine fighter background, I've gotten used to the two engines. I like it.
Let me ask you about some of the asymmetric characteristics of the airplane, right? I mean, it's a little F-14-like in that it has a big pancake, the engines are separated, they're off-center. Does that give you any sort of asymmetrical handling challenges at all with the airplane?
No, they're not separated that much. I've flown jets that have a large separation. I've flown the S-3 with engines way out on the wing. Our asymmetry is nothing like that. It's also not, because they're high bypass turbofan bizjet motors, they're not a ton of thrust. Which is the idea. Well, I guess technically they're 2 tons because they're 4,000 pounds. But anyway, they're out there, but they're not like an F-14 motor and afterburner that's that far off. So the moment that creates isn't that big, and it's easily controllable in single engine. When we do demonstration flights with potential customers, we typically show them the single engine wave off capability. So we'll configure into an approach, come down, simulate kill one motor and take off on just one, and it has no problem getting right back into flight, even before you clean up. And then once you do clean up, you fly away and come back around, try again. So it's a very good single engine capability, and that's not a problem. The asymmetric thrust is not an issue in the airplane.
And let me ask you one other question. You guys also G-limited the airplane in order to reduce costs. You guys went through a very complex metric. I think 6G limit was what you guys looked at. Is that at all a challenge in the attack mission where you may be flying profiles where you'll be pulling a little bit more?
Yeah, we found that 6Gs is enough for what we need to do with this airplane. It's predominantly going to be precision guided munitions, and so the potential high G of high angle dives that some of the other fighters do, that's not going to be the forte of this airplane. The forte of this airplane is going to be standoff precision weapons, where you're doing less maneuvering, deliveries that require less maneuverability, let me say that. The other thing is that although the G is available at a higher weight, so when we take off, it's not like we have to burn down a ton of gas or drop a ton of guns to get into our high weight range. We take off with a good G capability. And I think that gives us the flexibility that we need. I've not at this point experienced anything where we felt like any lack of G was a tactical problem.
We've always been hearing, there's a guy on step, to sign on to the program. Is there a guy on step that's ready to sign on to the program?
So I'm a test pilot. I'm going to have to direct that question to somebody in business development. That's not my role. We have a deal. I don't talk about that, and they don't test airplanes. So.
Well said, Brett. And let me ask you one question. Reliability, it's a new aircraft. What kind of downtimes are you having, or conversely, what kind of availability times are you guys posting? You guys make it a point that you didn't show up on a flatbed, although an Air Force aviator around here suggested that aircraft carriers are flatbeds. But I'll let you two discuss that. Yeah. But what kind of availability times were you showing at Holloman or elsewhere as you're going through this test cycle?
No, thanks. That's a great question. No, one of the things I've really loved about this airplane is it's built to the same level of systems safety and systems engineering design that the rest of Textron's family of airplanes, Cessna, has built airplanes for a long time. It's built to those same standards. So it's built with a tremendous operational availability requirement that we normally see in our bizjet fleets that are much higher numbers than we typically see in tactical fighter fleets. So, for instance, at Holloman, we accomplished, it was somewhere more than 20, I forget the exact number, but it was more than 20 flights. We didn't miss a single sortie for maintenance down there. And we were flying in Pax River for our weapons clearance envelope. We had to do 4 flights in 4 days in 4 different weapons configurations, and we never missed a beat. We got done in 4 days and left. We had reserved range time for the whole next week, thinking we would probably need it, and never did, and came home. We just flew the airplane here from Wichita. So from Wichita to Dubai is a long way with a lot of legs, and we never had a maintenance hit. We just kept flying. The plane just takes off and flies. And we were flying once or two legs every day, all the way across, and it just keeps flying.
And a rough field, do you guys have any sort of rough field capability, or is this airplane designed to come off of real runways and land on real runways?
We can take off of short runways. We have not done any testing to support dirt field landings. Dirt and jet engines typically don't mix well. But part of what our thinking is that you go to these dirt unimproved fields to be closer to the tactical situation as it's developing. We've got the speed to get to that situation in the same amount of time from a little farther away at a little more improved field. Having said that, we're still talking about 4,000 feet of runway. We don't need a giant air base to operate. But right now we are sticking to hard paved runways. Not to say there couldn't be some work to support that in the future, but we haven't yet done that. We believe that the number of hard paved runways that are short field will give us the access to the battlefield that we need to be able to still have quick response times.
But you think that's something you guys will practice just to see what that envelope looks like?
If a customer requires unimproved landings, we'll figure out what we have to do to support it. But right now we haven't had anybody tell us we've got to do that, so we're not going to spend the money on the flight testing to support something that we don't know there's a market for.
Especially since you developed the airplane already on spec. Brett, fair winds following seas, and look forward to staying in touch with you on the program.
Yeah, appreciate it. My pleasure.